Okay, when a continuation of a very, very fascinating sugya. It began with machlokus between Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva as to when we evaluate the meitav of one pays, because it says in the parsha of Shem V'Regel meitav Sadeu meitav Karma Yishalem. Rabbi Yishmael was of the opinion that it's the meitav of the nizik. So in a scenario where the nizik's best would be equal to the mazik's worst, the mazik would get off cheap because he would give his worst since it parallels the meitav of the nizik. And he had a gzeira shava for that. However, if it doesn't parallel, if the idius of the nizik is in any shape or form better than the ziburis of the mazik, then you would go meitav sadeu. You would go to the meitav, the best of the mazik. So it's either a meitav of the nizik or the mazik, according to Rabbi Yishmael. According to Rabbi Akiva, it's always the meitav of the nizik. Again, no matter what, it's always the meitav of the nizik. So for the meitav of the nizik, we're describing. We said that the meitav of the nizik is the Hamptons. We said it's the Hamptons, okay? And then the Gemara had a shaila. When we go ahead and evaluate meitav, do we go according to the individual, or do we go according to what the world considers meitav? So let's for just brevity's sake, let's call the mazik. He has the best real estate in the world. He has the Hamptons, and and he also owns Park Avenue. Park Avenue would be idios of the rest of the world, correct? So if you go bishelo hein shamin, he's going to have to pay the Hamptons regardless. The rest of the world, Park Avenue is idios. It's irrelevant because we go after what bishelo. Or do we know? We say we go after what the world. We go after what the world, and therefore he can get away with Park Avenue rather than the Hamptons. This shaila of Bishlo or Bishalolam is only according to Rabbi Akiva. Like Rabbi Yishmael, clearly we evaluate based upon the individual, because we're saying when the nizik's mazik, the nizik's idios is like the ziburius to the mazik, he's going to get off with ziburius. So obviously, we're just relative to the nizik. So that Gemara had that shaila, and the Gemara was pushed at the shaila. Gemara said it says meitav sadei or meitav shalem is mashma the Hamptons, mashma what he pays. So that's what we're up to. We're up to Zion on the base. We're 5 lines from the bottom, and we're asking on that what you just said, that you clearly paskin that we go according to the Hamptons, not according to Park Avenue. We're going according to his best, not according to what the world's best is. Then you'll be okay. Let's say a person, he's a 3-time loser. 1, he damaged someone. 2, he owes people money. And 3, he has to pay off his ksuba. So he's divorcing his wife. Now, cool, and he only has idios. Cool and government idios. Even though the halacha of balcho is beinanis and kasubasisha is ziburius, since all he has is idios, you can collect idios. Beinanis, he only has beinanis, kulam goyim beinanis, then even the nizik, who usually goes to idios, will go to beinanis. Ziburius, if he only has junk, kulan, all of them, including the nizik and the balchov, who usually are of a higher ilk, idios to the nizik, balchov to the beinanis, beinanis to the balchov, kulan goyim and ziburius. Okay, that was a no-brainer. Let's get a little more sophisticated in our question. Idios u beinanis, right? Viziburius. If he has all 3, Nizakim be'idius, balchov beinanis, ksuvasish viziburius. No-brainer. Idios u beinanis, and he doesn't have ziburius. So Nizakim be'idius, balchov remains on his level of beinanis. Ksuvasisha gets elevated from ziburius to beinanis. What happens? He has beinanis viziburius. He doesn't have any idios. Okay, beinanis viziburius. Nizakim balchov be'beinanis. The nizik goes down a notch because there's no idios. Balchov remains the same. Ukasibasisha v'ziburius. Idios v'ziburius. If he has number 1 and 3, nizakim be'idios, balchov ukasibasisha v'ziburius, and the balchov would go down rather than going up. Kitani mia. Nonetheless, we learned. In other words, in that brisa that we just stated, mitzia, the middle case, beinanis v'ziburius. If he had it, beinanis v'ziburius level 2 and level 3. Nizakin u'balchov bebeinanis. So the nizakin balchov goes still in level 2. Ukasubasisha b'ziburius, and kasubasisha goes to b'ziburius. Now we want to ask a question. Here's the question: V'i amit b'shaloi hein shamin. If you're going to tell me you go according to the individual, he has beinanis v'ziburius. let's upgrade his Baininus. Tasa Baininus Shaloi Ki'idius. Let's upgrade his level 2 to make it a 1. The Yitcha Balchov Eitzel Ziburius. And we'll put the Balchov down to a 3. Guys, look at me. If you have Idius and Ziburius, right? You have a 1 and a 3. The Balchov goes to the 3. Good? So now you have a 2 and a 3. You have Baininus and Ziburius. You told me Bishalohen Shaman that you go according to the individual. Well, if he has Baininus for Ziburius, his Baininus is not his Baininus is his best. So therefore, upgrade the 2 to a 1. I now have a 1 and a 3. Take the Balchov and stick him to Ziburius, and you get off a little cheap, but you won't have to give him what? Baininus. Ella must be Bishal Oilamate Shaman. And when you have Baininus, it's relative to the world, and you don't have an option of going up. That's the question that we're asking on Rav, who was the person. That's the question we're asking on Rabbi. That's Rabbi. This is Rav Shmuel bar Abba Me'akun yes from Rabbi. Rabbi was pushing it. We're asking on Rav Abba now. If again, one more time, if you have Baininus Ziburius and Bishalohen Shaman, why does the Balchov take from Baininus, upgrade his Baininus to the level 1 of an Idius? Now only has as a 1 and a 3, and now the 3, everyone's going to collect from what? From the Ziburius. Okay, that's the Gemara's kasha. Okay, says the Gemara. And for the Gemara, okay, you know what? Really Bishalohen Shaman, fellas. Really Bishalohen Shaman. And when he at the time of the transaction, he was mishabed there was a lien on level 2. There's a lien on level 2. In other words, he's left with a 2 and a 3. For the Gemara, let the 2 become a 1. And for the Gemara, at the time he's mishabed a 2, there was a 1 in place. So number 2 is not a 1. You can't upgrade it. He had a better, you always go after him. But you know why 2 is a 2? Because once, at the time of the loan, when the lien was on his property, he had in his possession a 1. So therefore, the 2 remains a 2. It doesn't go upgraded. So really, Bishalohen Shaman. And you want to know why the 2 doesn't become a 1? Because at the time of the loan, there was a 1 there. So the 2 remains a 2. The shibud was on the 2. Good. So now, let's go through again one more time, guys. Baininus v'ziburius, where does the Balchov get from? Baininus. Gets from Baininus. I make the Baininus a 1, an idius, and stick him down to Ziburius a 3. Says the Gemara, you can't do that because it's speaking where at the time of the loan he had idius. We have another brisa. Baininus v'ziburius, if he has number 2 and number 3, nizikin beBaininus, the nizik gets 2. Balchov ksubasisha b'ziburius. Oh, now you got a question, guys. Why did we just do to the Balchov? We just downgraded him. In the first price that the Balchov was getting what? He was getting Baininus. In the second price that the Balchov was getting Ziburius, guys. Kashan Adadi, guys, you hear the kasha. Okay, let's use the term 1, 2, and 3. If I have a 2 and a 3, the Balchov is getting a 2. Second price says if I have a 2 and a 3, the Balchov is getting a 3. How can you reconcile that? One case is getting 2, one case is getting a 3. We're going to have 4 different ways to go ahead and answer that question. We're going to have 4 different ways to answer that question. And in order to facilitate easier way of understanding, we have a little chart over here. Okay? So here you have it. First brisa says I underline Baininus number 2. Second brisa says Ziburius is number 3. So this is very geschmack. Really, Bishalohen Shaman. You go according to him. You're going according to him. So the question is, you're going according to him. Let's make the Baininus the 2 into a 1 and collect the 3. Says, no, you can't do that because he had idius umachra. He had a 1. At the time of the loan, he had a 1. Since he had a 1, the 2 remains a 2. This place, guys, gets Ziburius. You know why? He never had idius at the time of the chov. When the chov took place, the shibud was what on? It was on the shibud was on the property that he had, but he never had what? He never had an idius. So what happens? B'shalohin shaman will make what? Will make the Baininus now an idius. And now he'll collect from Ziburius. That's the first way we want to say to answer the shaila that we just answered. We're using it to answer a stira in prices. This price says 2. This one says 3. Here he had a 1, so the 2 is a 2. Here he never had a 1, so the 2 becomes a 1, and he collects a 3. A second attempt. Cool. No, it's another way. Really, I could say this Brisa can answer it up a different way, the contradictions. This one, Kuliyama says, Bishal Oilam. You go after what the world goes ahead and considers. In other words, we go after Park Avenue. His Baininess is equal to the Baininess of the world. So therefore, if his number 2 is a world number 2, you collect number 2, he's the Balchov. In this case, his Baininess is like the idiots of the world. His 2 is a 1. Mamela, you're going to collect the 3. Again, we have a contradiction over here. We say over here you collect a 2, over here you're collecting a 3. So this terrace will be, over here you collect the 2, because we go after what the world considers a 2, and it's a 2. Over here, he's going to collect a 3, because the world's 2 is really, his 2 is the world's 1, and therefore you can collect the 3. Another shot, Baininess is equal to the Baininess of the world. Everyone says his Baininess is equal to the Baininess of the world, and we hold B'Shalaylam Hem Shamin. You go to the world. So since the world's Baininess is Baininess, he's going to collect from Baininess. Here we see B'Shalohem Shamin. So we're going to take his Baininess, his 2, we're going to make it a 1, and therefore he'll collect the 3. So these are 3 different ways to explain the steers in the Brisa. And finally, we have the takana of Balchov. We learned this in Masechta Gittin. Fellas, the reason a Balchov gets from Baininess is you want to facilitate commerce. You want people to lend. If you're going to tell me that I get junk, guess what? I'm going to get Bushwick. I'm going to get something junk. No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that, because I'm not going to lend you money then. If I know I'll get a better sort of land, if you renege on the deal, if you foreclose on the deal, then I'll go through with the loan. But I won't go through the loan if I can only collect, a mortgage on a junky property. So Mamela, that's the shleitinul deles, that not to close the door in front of commerce and of borrowing, we can make him collect Baininess. That's the kana of what of Ula. So now it's speaking 1 and 2, meaning it's speaking b'shalolam, and his speaking his Baininess is equal to the rest of the world. So Ravina says again, you go after what the world considers, and his Baininess is a number 2. So he agrees with Ula in Ula's takana. You made a takana. I agree with your takana. I want to get his Baininess is Baininess of the world. I want to get it. He, on the other hand, disagrees with Ula. He says in this scenario, we will not go ahead, and therefore, since he disagrees with Ula, he'll get his midaraisa dekadin, which is ziburius. So you have 4 ways to go ahead and answer the kasha that we just had now. So let's see it inside now and see if it makes a little more sense than if I would have just read it in the Gemara in the first place. Says the Gemara. I guess this is called foreshadowing. Now you go like this. Hachanami mistabra, to say that it's speaking where he had a 1 at the time of the loan. Midiktani achrita, when we have a second brisa, what does the second brisa say? Bainis b'ziburius nizakim b'bainis. Balchov bainis b'ziburius nizakim b'bainis. And Balchov b'zisha b'ziburius. And the Balchov is getting a 3. In the first brisa, he's getting a 2. Second one is getting a 3. Kashana adadi. Elash mamina. The first price that it says he's getting a 2 is because at the time of the loan there was a 1, so the 2 remains a 2. Over here there was no 1 at the time, and therefore his 2 is really a 1, so you're going to get what? The 3. He never had idios. His Baininess is equal to the idiots of the world. He's got really great stuff. All right, and there, so in our chart, right? His Baininess is equal to, I wrote Baininess of the world should be idiots at Alma. No, it's good. His Baininess is not equal. His Baininess is equal to Baininess. His Baininess is equal to idiots, right? So when his Baininess is equal to Baininess, you get Baininess. When his Baininess is equal to Idius, his 2 is a 1, then you're going to get a 3. Okay? It was equal to the rest of the world. Right? This price that it says you collect Ziburius, you go after him. So his 2 is equal to the world, but I go after him. So his 2 is, since it's good to the world, it's a 2, but to him it's a 1. If it's a 1 to him, we're going to upgrade it, and he's going to get a 3. He's going to get Ziburius over here. But what he holds B'Shalom Mishamin, since it's a 2, it remains a 2, and he collects the 2. And finally, Masa B'Shalom Mishamin. Ravina Ama B'Dula Kamifli. They're arguing in Ula. Dama Ula. V'Torah Midaraisa Balcho B'Ziburius. Midaraisa Balcho collects Ziburius. Shneimar comes to the din of a mashkon. It says B'chutz Tamod. He stands outside. And that means the shliach bezin stands outside who's collecting the security. And the one that is owes yaitza elecha esa'al, but he takes out his mashkon, he takes out his security, the collateral hachutza. He's not taking out his silver candelabra. He's taking out his glass, his memorial glass that he lit who knows how long. He'll take out the junk. What's the reason we say balcho b'beinunis? Right? We want to make sure that's to facilitate a commerce. Mar is late to counter the ula, and therefore you can collect beinunis. Less late to counter the ula, and he does not hold back of the counter of ula. Guys, you have it all in front of you. Okay, so just a quick recap. Let's go through the chart. Scenario number 1, he's getting a 2. Scenario number 2, he's getting a 3. 2 and a 3. Here there was a 1. Since there was a 1, the 2 was established as a 2. Here there never was a 1. So the 2 now becomes the 1. If the 2 becomes the 1, he collects the 3. Now we're going after what world considers, not him. We're going after the world. So his beinus is equal to the beinus of the world. His 2 is a 2. You get a 2. His beinus is like the idiot of the world. So if you go after the world, his 2 is really a 1. If his 2 is a 1, he's going to get a 3. Okay. His beinus is equal to the beinus of the world. However, the question is whether you go after the world or you go after him. If you go after the world, his beinus is a 2. If you go after him, his beinus is a 1. If it's a 1, he's going to collect a 3. Finally, really midaraisa, you collect ziburius. The whole reason you collect idius beinus is to shleitinal delis lovin, and therefore he agrees with Ula, get a 4. He disagrees, you get the 2. He disagrees with Ula, and you get a 3. Those are the 4 ways to explain 2 conflicting prices. Very good. Okay, get ready for a little fun, okay? We have a rule and thumb. We learned this in Masechta Gittin. Ein nifroyim nechasim shebadim b'makom sheish ben chayrin. So in other words, I go ahead and Kenny lends me money. Right now, Kenny says, what's going to go ahead, and guarantee my loan? I said, well, look, I got 3 properties, okay? So there are 3 properties will guarantee the loan. Kenny says, fine. Okay. I'm still down on my luck. I owe Kenny $100,000. I sell one property because I need more money. I sell the property to Heshi. Okay. Property number 1. I'm really down on my luck. I sell a second property to Ari. So I have one more property. Kenny comes along now and he wants to collect. Kenny says, well, you have one more property. That's the din. You can't go to collect the lien on the properties from Heshi or Ari because those are meshubed. You have now something that's unencumbered. You have what's considered b'nei chayrin in my rishus. If, however, I now go ahead and take that land and sell it to Lenny, good, I sell it to Lenny, now Kenny can go collect. Now, who does he collect from? There's a pecking order. He collects first from Lenny, because that was the last property that was unencumbered. If that's not enough to cover the loan, he would go back to Ari. And if that's not enough, he'd go back to Heshi. So there's a pecking order, and the rule of thumb is ein nifroyim and chasim shubadim. You can't collect from property with a lien as long as there's b'nei chayrin. Okay. So what we're going to get into very much so is if the last property that I sold to Lenny was idios, and you're a Baal Chov, you're going to collect the idios, right? Even though your din is bebeinanis, you're going to collect the idios. Or no, do you say you go to, I'd say I sold my Ziburius to Heshi, or do you say you go to Ari who has the beinanis? That was your din in beinanis, or do you go to the last property that was sold? Let's see it inside. I sell to one person 3 properties, or 3 people, one, right? Or 3 people. So I have upon me, I'm not doing well. I'm a nizik, I have a choiv, and a divorce all on my head. And I have these properties. I sell them to one person. or I sell three to three different people. But I do it ke'echad. It's not recognizable in the shtar who came first. Again, if you knew who came first, there's a pecking order. We just illustrated it, right? It would be you go to Lenny, you go to Ari, there'd be a pecking order. But they purchased the land all together. They all bought it on November 10th. And in Yerushalayim, they didn't write shois. They didn't write hours of the day. So for all intents and purposes, it happened simultaneously, that they all went ahead, right? And they have so now, if you don't if I sold it all to Benji, all my property on one day, or I sold it to those Lenny, Ari, and Heshi on one day, and I have these three people, so the Nizik is going to collect from the Idius, the Balchov will collect from the Beinonis, whoever that is, and the Ksubasish will collect from Ziburius. That's what the Brisa says. Tanrabanan. Machad le'echad, right? You go ahead on one day, you sell it to one person, or l'shleishim le'yadim ke'echad, kulin nechnasim tachas habaylim. They all take the place of me. So just like if they would collect from me, the Nisik would collect from my Idius, and the Balchov would collect from my Beinonis, and the Ksubasisha would collect from Ziburius, who had then the sold property, each one of the prospective people will go to their prospective din, right? So the Nisik would go to the one who bought the Idius, the Balchov would go to the one who bought the Beinonis, and the Ksubasisha would go to the one who bought the Ziburius. However, if you sell one after the other, they'd all go to the last one being sold. In this case, they'd all go to Lenny, because that was the last one that I sold. If after they go to Lenny, it's not enough to cover, they go to Ari. If after Ari, they go to Heshi. Good. Now, what's the case, the ratio where you said you sell to one person, that each one is to go to their respective lot? If you told me that it was all written in one shtar, meaning I sold to Benji in one shtar, I sold him my Idius, Beinonis, and Ziburius in one shtar, where I sold it to three different individuals on one day. That one of them must have come first. If I'm selling to three individuals, one of them must have come first. And nonetheless, since it's not recognizable in the shtar, the Idius is going to Idius, the Beinonis, the Ziburius, each one is going to their perspective. In other words, in a case where it's three different people, and there certainly was a pecking order, but it's just not recognizable what that pecking order is. Nonetheless, each one goes to the respective lot, where I sell it to one person, bivas achas, to Benji, right? So, ain't din that it should be, that it was on one star, ain't din they should all collect from their respective lot. So that can't be the chiddush of machar le'echad, guys. That can't be the chiddush of machar le'echad. Madach by three, you don't say you go to perspective lot. Certainly one, you go to perspective lot. So Elowat must be speaking, right? El pshita b'ze'achazeh. It must be that I sold it to Benji on three separate days. I sold it to Benji's on three separate days. Now, guys, outside, if I would have sold it to Lenny, Ari, and Heshi on three separate days, where would you go to? The last one. You're telling me now I sold it to Benji on three separate days. Each one goes to their respective place. The Idius, the Nisik to Idius, the Balchov Beinonis, the Ksubis. If I sold them in 3 separate days, they should all go to the last one. They should all be Lenny. They should all be the last one. Even though I sold it to Benji, one person, but really the last one is the Bnei Chayrin, right? The last one was the one that was unencumbered. It was the last one. So Fred the Gemara Kasha, if it's speaking, it can't be speaking with Vasachas. That's pashut on the same day. So it must be I sold it to Benji on 3 separate days, and nonetheless, they're all not going to the last thing that he bought. They're each one going to the perspective, the Balchov to his, and the Nisik to his, and the Ksubasish to hers. El Pshita B'Zachazeh, Umayshna Shloisha, 3 people, the Chol Chad B'Chad Amalei, Hinachti L'cham Mokem Ligbeis Mimenu. You go to collect from Heshi. What does Heshi say? When I bought the property, I left you 2 other lots. You go over to Ari. What does Ari say? I left you one lot. What does Lenny say? I messed up. He can't say anything because he didn't leave over anything, right? So why can't Benji say the same thing? Why? Let's say Benji, Benji doesn't want, he wants everyone to, let's say the last thing was Ziburius. Why can't he tell the Nizik, you know what? Go to Ziburius. Why can't he tell the Balchov, go to Ziburius? That was the last thing that was what? That was free. Why don't you say that? In other words, it clearly should not make a difference, 3 people and 1 person, if it's day after day. Because my rule of thumb is, I always, b'nei chayrin, I'm not going to collect Meshubadim. And we take it to, and even, so therefore, I sold it, the last one who bought it, that's the last b'nei chayrin. So why would it make a difference by the 3 guys that we all go to Lenny? Why don't we go to the last field that Benji bought? That's the kasha. It's a Gavaldic kasha. Says the Gemara, I'll tell you what. Hani Nami, Benji can also say, Akol chad v'chad, leimalei, hanachel chamakam likbais mimenu. Hachamayaskinon, gretchalokach yidiyas bachreina. You know why he doesn't, you know why he tells them to go to the din? Because Mr. Greenfield didn't raise a fool. The last thing he bought was the Hamptons. He doesn't want everyone to go to the last thing. He wants them. I want you to. I'm happy. You go to Ziburius. You go to Baininus. Nisik. Okay. You go to Idius. But you should all go to Idius. That I don't want. That now the question is why not? If Lenny had bought Idius, they'd all go to Lenny's, right? Says the Gemara. The Chenam Rav Sheish is going to shalach Idius back right. They bought Idius last. Now, Iyachi. So they say Kula, believe us me Idius. Just like if Lenny had bought Idius, they'd all go to Lenny. So too, if the last field that Benji bought was Idius, good Benji doesn't want them to go there, right? He doesn't want them to go there, but the din should be, they should go there. That was the last Ben Chayrin. So what are you gaining? Says Listen what Benji can say. Ishas kisu, if you're quiet, and you go according to the din, you kusubas, you should get Ziburius, you Balchov get Bainanis, Shaklisu, take it. The Eloi, and if not, you know what? I bought all 3 lands from Leza. Madrana started the Ziburius Lamare. I'll go ahead. I'll return. I'll say, listen, we had a guarantee. I don't like this land. This Ziburius, I don't like Leza. Take it back. I said, Benji, I gave you a guarantee. I'll take it back. I take it back. Now, what happens now, guys? The field that I got now, you no longer have a right to go to Meshubadim. Now you come back to me. What are you going to collect? You're going to collect Ziburius. So basically, Benji's extorting them. Basically, Benji can extort them. The reason why each one goes there to their din is because he has Idius, right? He has Idius, right? And he doesn't want to give them Idius. So he tells them, listen, if you take according to your din, great. And if not, I'm going to return the Ziburius to Leza. Then you're going to, Leza's your Baal Choif, you're going to go to him, and you're going to get Ziburius. So just be happy with what you get. You hear? By 3 people, you can't say that Taina. But by 1 person, you could say that Taina. So that's the difference between Benji and the 3. When it's the 3, they're all going to go to Lenny, and Lenny doesn't have nothing to go to Ari, then doesn't have nothing to go to Heshi. But where it's all 3 on 3 separate days to Benji, Benji has a koyach, a taina. Benji can say, listen, you take what you're supposed to take, and if not, I'm returning the junk to him, to Leza, and you're going to get junk. Now, let me ask you a question then. If you can extort, why don't you extort the whole way? Why are you giving the Nizik Idius? In other words, tell the Nizik, listen, be happy, take Bainanis. Yedins and Idius. Take the Bainanis, because if you don't want the Bainanis, I'll return the Shtar Ziburius to Leza, and you'll have to take Ziburius. So it's true, I hear what you're saying, but there's one part I don't understand. Why is the Nisik staying on his din? Why is he getting Idius? He shouldn't get Idius. If you're extorting, you might as well be a complete extortionist, not a partial extortionist, right? Go ahead, take him, you're chucking down. You're chucking off the whole din because the last thing you bought is Idius. So therefore, and you're going to get Ziburius. So let him collect from Ziburius, says the Gemara. Ihachi, if so, Ihachi, Ami Ihachi, if this is the case, that the last thing he bought was Idias, and he's telling each one, Ishaskisu, if you'll be quiet and be happy with what you get, you get. If not, I'm going to return it. Right? B'nizakin nami neimahachi. By nizakin also say that, meaning, if you take Bainan, it's great. If not, I'm going to give you the Ziburius. So why is he getting Idias? You hear the kasha? You hear the kasha? Harold, you hear it? Not so good. Okay, one more time. One more time. Outside eye contact. Benji bought 3 shtaris. He bought all my land, one after the other. According to the law the last one, that's the one that everyone should go to. We're saying that's not the law. The one that Nizik can go to Idias, the Balchos can go to Bainis, the Ksubis can go to Siborius. Fred the Gemara, why? We know that you can't collect from Mishubadim. That carries over to when the Balchov sells his property. I sold my property to Benji. The last thing he bought should be the first place that everyone goes. And it should not be dependent, it should not have the din of Idias, Bainis, Ziborius. Whatever this last one is, that's what it should go to. Says the Gemara, I'll tell you why each one goes to the separate din, because Benji does not want them to go to the last one. Because the last one he bought was Idias. So he doesn't want the Kesubas Isha to get Idias. He doesn't want the Balchov to get Idias. He doesn't want that. Nizik, I have no choice. Maybe. Nizik, I have no choice. Good. So why does each one go to this prospective din if the last one he bought was Idias? Because Benji tells him the following. If you're quiet and you take what you're supposed to get, great. If not, I'm going to take Ziborius, which I bought first or second. I'm going to return it to Laser. Now you have nothing by me. Your deal is not with me. Your deal is with Lays. You're going to go back to Laser. What does Laser have? Ziborius. So you're all going to collect Ziborius. So therefore, be quiet. I won't give it back to Laser. And each one of you be happy with what you get. You Nizik are going to get Idias. You Balchov will get Bainis. And you Kesubas will get Ziborius. Fred the Gemara Kasha. If that's your pshat, I don't understand one thing. So you're extorting them and saying you have to stay on your din. Once you're extorting, go all the way. Why should the Nizik get Idias? I can extort him into getting Bainis with the same claim. Nizik, if you'll take Bainis, great. If you don't take Bainis, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give him Ziborius, and you're going to collect Ziborius. Yet we don't say that. Yet the Nizik gets some Idias. So it must be there's something we're missing over here. That's the Nakuda. That's the Nakuda. Says the Gemara, Ihachi, if it's speaking where Benji's extorting, saying, listen, I bought Idias as the last, and I want to go ahead now, rescind and give him back Ziborius, Neimahachi, let him tell let him tell the Nizik, be quiet, I'm going to return, right, of Ziborius, and you're going to end up taking Bainis. Why don't we say that? Ela must be Hachamayaskinon biyasme. It must be where the Moicher, in this case, the Moicher is, until now it's been me, but now it's going to be somebody else. It's going to be Harry. In this case, Harry dies. Right? Now, if you would return the Ziborius to Harry's kids, you won't be able to collect from it. B'diyasme, the lav b'nei proyin ninu, right? They're not b'nei proyin. They don't have to pay up. The shibud is not on them. The shibud is not on Harry's kids. It's only on Harry, right? The shibud is not on Harry's kids. It's only on Harry himself. So therefore, the shibud delay alei didei ramya. The shibud to mishalem is what? Is on the person who bought it. The shibud to mishalem is on Benji. The shibud to mishalem is on Benji. Benji is the one who has the property. Good. Hilkach lekla meimahachi. He can't say what? He can't say what? I'm going to return the shtar Ziborius, right? He says right. So now, if he can't tell them if you're quiet, if not, and that's why. So So why don't we all go to the last one? Why don't we all go to Idias? Again, fellas, what was Benji's ability to go ahead and put you back on your din? It was with the claim, if you take according to your din, that's great. And if not, I'm going to turn the shtar Ziburius, and you'll be go to Ziburius. Now, you can't do that because Harry, who owed Benji the money, is dead. If Benji says, I'm going to give back to Harry's kids, you're not going back to Harry's kids, right? So therefore, that's why you're going to get idiots. So now we need a pshat over here. So what's pshat over Ella? What's the reason that each one, why don't they all collect from the idiots? Why are they not collecting from the idiots? Because Benji says to Harry, says to the Baal Chov and to the Isha. Okay, so now let's go through it. Let's go through the setup. We need to have a case where one person bought 3 properties, one after the other, and each one is going to stand on their own din, correct? We assumed it's a case where the Meicher, the Lekeach, Benji, does not want them to take from the last land, which they should be taking from. Why? Because it's the best thing possible. Fred the Gemara, if that's the case, why is the Nizik getting the best? Extort him to Beinanis. And the answer is, it must be because Benji does not have the capacity to go ahead and claim, be quiet, take your din, and I'll make you all collect Ziburius, because he can't do it because the Meicha Harry, who sold it to him, is dead. If you can't return it, the kids won't, they're not Bnei Peroyan. If they have it, you can't go back to the Yisraelim and say, give us the land. Okay, so now, if he bought the Idias last, good. Why is it the only one who collects from it is the Nizik, and not the Baal Chov and not the Isha? After all, it was the last land. Now, fellas, this din of collecting from Bnei Chayrin, and not from Shubadim and this Bnei Chayrin, who is that to protect? The Meicher or Lekeach? The buyer or the seller? Obviously, it's to protect Benji. In other words, I bought a land that has a lien on it. You only go to the second mortgage after the first mortgage forecloses, right? So this whole takana was made for me. This was takana, guys, was to protect me. That you should go to Harry, and not me. It's to protect me. Now this is working against me because by me buying the lasting idiots, you're saying 1 second. I can't go to Beinis and Ziburius, which came first. Why? But Makam Sheish ben Chayrin, Idius, which was last. But the takana was made for me. I don't want this takana. It doesn't work for me. Therefore, you go stay on your dinim. That's the din. Okay, I'll say it again. It's very involved, but okay, we have a rule and we have a law that's going against the rule. Our rule is, whatever you leave over by the Meicher, the guy who owes you money, that's where you collect from. And if there's lands 1, 2, and 3, right? You're going to collect from number 3 before number 2, and from number 2 before number 1. We used we had Lenny as number 3, we had Ari as number 2, and Heshi as number 1. Okay, everyone understood that. Now, 1, 2, and 3 are by one person, by Benji. What's the law? Each one goes according to their own din. We didn't understand that. When it was by 3 different people, you all went on to Lenny. So by Benji also, you should go on to number 3. Lenny had land number 3. Benji has land number 3. Why are you going ahead and collecting? Nisi goes to 1, it goes to, why is that? And the answer is, Benji doesn't want them to collect from number 3. He doesn't want them. Because number 3 is his best land that he bought. And it's only entitled to the Nizik, not to 1 and 2. Read the Gemara. So if that's the case, so what's Benji's taina? If you're quiet and be nice little boys and take from what you're supposed to get, be happy. If not, I'm gonna mess you all over. I'm gonna take number 1, the lousiest land, return it to Harry, and you'll go to Harry. Read the Gemara. If that's the case, why did you have the Nizik collecting from the best land? He should collect also. Extort him to a lower level land. And for the Gemara, they can't do that. It must be that Benji cannot say that. You know why Benji can't say, if you're quiet, I'll give it back? Because his Moicha, Harry's dead. And if you give the money back if you give the land to Ziburius back to the kids, they'd still stay by Benji because Harry's kids owe them nothing. So now that's where we're stuck. If that's the case, it's speaking where Harry's dead, and Benji doesn't have the option of returning a junky land and getting all his chayvis back to the junk. So why in the world are each one staying on their dinim? Says the Gemara, beautiful teretz. This din that you only collect from the last land, why was that? Because when Heshi went to Harry and he bought the land, he had security. No one's going to come to me. There are two more people there's a pecking order over here. When Ari went ahead and bought the land, he said, well, 1 second, there's still somebody else. Everyone's going to go to the last land. That last land was to protect Heshi and Ari. Good. Now comes along Lenny and buys the last land. Now Lenny is he's gambling. Why? Because there's nothing there left to go ahead and guarantee that the people that are owed will come to him. There's no more Ben Chayrin. But you see the whole takana of not collecting from Mishubadim of Kenny, of Ari and Benji was, as long as there's something left over, they're secure. So it was made for the takana of the Lekeach. So now let's take that and go put it by Benji. So Benji buys 3 lands on 3 different days. And the last land he bought is what is Idias. So using the takana, you're going to say, guess what? The last land you bought is Idias. We're all going to collect Idias. That was the last land you bought from Harry. Benji's a chacham. He says, 1 second. Why are you going to the last land? That whole din was to protect me, that you shouldn't come to collect from me while Harry still had something. Now you're telling me what? That din to protect me is going to mess me over, that you're going to go to it? I don't want that takana. It doesn't work for me now. It worked for me when there were other lands by Harry. It doesn't work for me now. It's not protecting me. It's messing me over. Says the Gemara. Ella, 4 lines down. Ella, the reason why each one goes to their various din, mishum da amalahu, because Benji says to them, Taima mai amar rabbanon ein efraim nechasim mishubadim b'kshev chayrin, that you only collect from you don't collect from the earlier lands when there's a free land. Mishum takanta the di, you wanted to protect me, that you shouldn't go. I shouldn't buy a land and have someone come and take it away. Anaba takanta leinichali. When my idios is last, I'm not happy with this takana. It doesn't work for me. So therefore, you'll each go take from your din. That's the halacha. Now, where do you know that you can tell the chachamim this land doesn't work for me? We had this. Fellas, in Masechet Ksubis, what? The Maisa Yadayim of an Isha, whatever she makes, goes to the husband. You know why? Because the husband supports her, gives him a zaynus. What happens if this girl's making a good living? Right? Can she tell the husband, let me be on my own and you don't provide for me? Absolutely yes. Says the Gemara. Anyone says, I don't want the Takanas Chachamim, Kigoin Zuf, for the case of what? The Maisa Yadav in lieu of Mizainis, Shaimin Lo, you listen. My Kigoin Zuf, Kidrafuna, Dam Rafuna, a woman's able to tell the husband, Aini Nizainis, don't provide food for me, Ve'aini Oisa, and I won't give you the money I make. So you see why it didn't work for the Isha, because she makes more money than her food is worth. So to over here, Benji says, you Chacham made a takana to protect me. This doesn't protect me. Therefore, so Maskana, what's the case, guys? The case is where, again, we're going the case where Benji buys 3 different fields from one person on the same day, 3 different fields on one person on the same day. We don't say you go to the last field because the last field is a idiot. You told me you don't collect from Mishubadim, so how can you collect from the Ziburius and the Bainis, which was sold before the idiots? The answer is that takana was to protect Benji. He doesn't want that takana. It doesn't work for him. The male, he puts each one on their din. I hope that worked out. I'm out of breath. I hope that worked out. Okay, some more fun. Shita. Now, until now we have one lekeach. We have Benji. What if Benji sells it to somebody else? Machalakech beinis v'ziburius. Benji now sells his beinis v'ziburius. He sells levels 2 and 3. V'shaya idis lefanav, and he remains with number 1. Leisei kuloi v'ligva me'idius. They all go and collect idius. The achroinahi, because that was the last ben chayrin, that was the last land. Ubeinis v'ziburius less than the gabei, and there's no beinis v'ziburius by him. The matzilamei melahu govern beinis v'ziburius l'nichli b'takanta d'rabbanan. Guys, we're taking it to the next level. When can Benji say each one should go according to Yadin? That's when he retains the 3 lands. But if he would sold 2 of them and only have 1 of them, and in this case, the 2 he sold was level 2 and level 3, then he has to pay up everyone from level 1. Right? He can't say over here, Yeshli b'takanas chachamim, because it is the Ben Chayrin, it is the last land, and he has nothing else to give them. However, in Machar Idius, the Shaya Benus v'Ziburius Mai, what happens if he sold the Idius? And even though that was the last land, guys, the last land that he had purchased, Ben Chayrin was, so Benji bought 3 lands, Ziburius, Beininus, and Idius. The last land was Idius. If it's by him, all 3 by him, he can put them all on the dinim. If the Idius is by him, they all collect the Idius. What happens if he sells the Idius? He sells it to Dove. Here's the question. Since that was the last land sold, does everyone go to Dove? Or Benji can or Dove can say, listen, I left you over Beinis Ziburius because I don't want you coming to me. You had to learn this. It's fascinating. To what extent do we apply this? Says the Gemara, Mai. So Sava Bailamim, again, Dove bought the Idius, he left Beinis Ziburius. Sava Bailamimar, Asu Kula Government Idius. Doesn't make a difference. Even though Dove bought it, that's the last Ben Chayrin. It was the last land that Harry sold to Benji. It's the last land, and Benji sold it to Dove. The Shibud is on that land. Everyone is going to go collect from that land. Amle Rava, Ma Macharishon L'Sheni Kol Shchusa Tavel Yadai. Benji sells to Dove all the rights that he had. The Kivin the Ilu Asu Gabe, even if it was by him. L'Kerech Rishon Matzi Agbilei Mebenis Ziburius. He could force them to collect Beinis Ziburius. Gafa Pi Dechizavne Beinis Ziburius Akati Yidis Ben Chayrin Hu. Bein Ephraim Nechas Mishbadim Kozman Dikim Ben Chayrin Matzi Amalei like Nichali Bahata Kanta. In other words, you could say that like Keach Nami. So the second one also the Chizavne Lekeach Sheni, when Dove buys it, Adaiti the Chol Chusa the Havil Rishon Begavad Zavim. Says Rava, beautiful chiluk. Guys, listen to this. Guys, when Benji bought the 3 lands, right? Benji bought the 3 lands, and he had the 3 in his possession. He had all three in his possession. Good. Comes along somebody, the 3 people they want to collect. He's able to go ahead and force them to collect Beinis Ziburius. Benji was able, even though the Idius was the last one. You're able to force them to Beinis Ziburius. Good. So you had that right. Now, when Dove goes ahead and buys the Idius and leaves Beinis Ziburius, let's say he takes your place. And just like Benji will be able to force them off the Idius to Beinis Ziburius, Dove can as well. So Abaya says Dove can't, and you get from Idius, and Rabbi says that Dove buys every right that Benji had. And just like Benji, when they're all 3 by him, he could force Beinis Ziburius. Dove can go ahead and say, listen, I bought the Idius, even though it was the last. You're a Balchov, you go to Beininus. You're a Subasisha, you go to Ziburius. New Gemara. Amarava. Ruvain Shemacha called Sedais of the Shemin. Ruvain sells all his fields to Shemin. The whole of Shemin, Umacha Sada Achas Levi. So Ruvain sells all his fields to Shemin. Right? He has 3 fields, Mishupadim, Balchoiv, they're all Meshubid. So Ruvain has fields that have a lien on them. He sells them to Shimon, and Shimon goes ahead and he sells level 2 to Levi. And Shimon has, okay, let's go to 1, 2, and 3. Shimon now has 1 and 3. He sells number 2 to Levi. So we have Ruvain owes Balchov. We have three sorts of land that are all Meshubid. Shimon buys them, and he sells 1 to Levi, and the one he sells is number 2. Ubo Bal Choiv de Ruvain. Now the original Bal Chov comes to Ruvain. Ruvain has nothing. Good. He goes to Shimon. Shimon has what? Idias and Siburius. What does Levi have? Baininus. Rotzim Izeh Goiva. If he wants to collect the Baininus from Levi, he could. And Levi can't tell him that what? Go to the Siburius of Shimon, right? Because he could tell him, you took my shibud that I bought your shibud. You know, you took the shibud that of Baininus. When it was by Reuven, guys, where was the Baal Chov's shibud on? It was on number 2. It was on that land. When it goes to Shimon, it's still on that land. When it goes to Levi, it's still on that land. So if the Baal Chov of Reuven wants to collect the Baininus from Levi, he could. And if he wants to collect the Ziburius from Shimon, he can go ahead and collect the Ziburius from Shimon, and Shimon can go ahead and push him to Levi. So, of course, he can tell him, you bought the chayiv. When you bought everything, you bought the chayiv. Okay, so let's go to the two stadim over here, guys. Reuven has a Baal Chayiv on him. He has 3 lands, 1, 2, and 3. He had the Baal Chayiv's shibud is on number 2. Shimon buys all 3. So Shimon now becomes like Reuven. Shimon now goes ahead and sells number 2 to Levi. Reuven's Baal Chayiv has an option. He can collect number 2 from Levi, because that's where the land was on, or he can collect Ziburius from Shimon, saying that you're the same as what? As Reuven. Says the Gemara. Reuven Amar Rava. Reuven shemacha kol tzelash l'Shimon. V'holach Shimon u'macha sadachas l'Levi. U'ba Baal Chayiv de Reuven. Ratzim yizeh goiva. If he wants to collect from Levi, the Baininus. Ratzim yizeh goiva. If he wants to collect from what? From Shimon the Ziburius, he can. V'le'amarin el dezav and Baininus. We don't say this only if Levi went ahead and bought number 2. Al zav and idius v'Ziburius. If Levi bought 1 and 3, loy, then the Baal Chav of Reuven cannot come to Levi. The Amalei, because Levi can tell the Baal Chav of Reuven, Lahachi daiki v'zavni idis v'Ziburius. That's why I bought a 1 and a 3. Arad lechazi lecha, because your shibud's on 2. And va'afil izav and Baininus. And even if Levi would buy number 2, namilei amaran, that he can collect from, el l'shaya Baininus to kavase, that he didn't leave Baininus by Shimon. Because he bought all the Baininus, he can't say I left you over by Shimon. Al-Shaya Baininus the Kavasi Gabi Shimon, like Gavimine, he can't, the Balchul can't collect from Levi. The Matziyam Levi can tell him, okay, outside, let me just tell you what I told you. Okay, we have a case. Reuven sold all his property to Shimon. Reuven has a Baal Chayiv. So the Chayiv is on number 2. Levi goes ahead and buys number 2. The halacha is if he buys number 2, Levi can go ahead. The Baal Chav Reuven collect that number 2 from Levi, or he wants to go to Reuven and go to Shimon and get Ziburius. A little addendum to that. What happens if Levi bought a 1 and a 3? Then the Baal Chav cannot collect, because Levi can say, I was medayik to buy 1 and 3 because you're a Baal Chav and you collect from a 2, and I left the 2 by Shimon. So therefore you can't collect from me. Another addendum. And even if he buys number 2, that's provided he buys the whole number 2. If he leaves over number 2 by Shimon, then the Baal Chav Reuven cannot collect from him. Because he could say, I was medayik when I bought to make sure there still was a place for you to collect from Shimon. So that he can collect from Levi is provided 2 things took place. Only one thing has to take place. That Levi buys number 2 and does not leave over anything by Shimon. If Levi does not buy number 2, he leaves it over by Shimon. Or Levi buys number 2 and leaves some more number 2 by Shimon, then he can't come to Levi at all. Guys got it? Because then you guys is the chacham. You go ahead. Shimon bought the chiyuv, he's got it. Number 2 is by him. Perfect. Okay. One more case. Amar Abaya, Reuven shemacha sad l'Shimon b'achrayas. Achrayas means if they take the land from me, I'm going to make up to you. You know, I'm guaranteeing the sale. So Reuven sells a field to Shimon b'achrayas. The Yasa Baal Chov de Reuven comes along Reuven's Baal Chov. The Torah from Shimon, what does he do? He takes the field away from Shimon. Now, what does Shimon do? Shimon's going to come back to Reuven. Good. Shimon's going to come back to Reuven. Dinahu, the din is the Azal Reuven can go. Umishtoya Dina behadeh, and Shimon can go ahead and deal. Reuven can deal with Shimon. And Dinahu, the Reuven can go and deal with the Balchov. And the Balchov of Reuven can say to him, hey, 1 second, you're not my Maldover, you're out of the picture now. My ASIC's with Shimon. Shimon bought it. My whole ASIC now is with Shimon. It's nothing to do with you. He can't say that. In other words, let's say Reuven, guys, is a towing. Let's say Reuven's a lawyer. Let's say Reuven has certain business acumen, and he'll be in court. He'll be much more capable than Shimon. So Reuven's Balchov doesn't want anything to do with Reuven. He knows this guy. He wants to deal with Shimon. The din is Reuven can tell him, no, you deal with me, and I'll tell you why. The Amalei, imafkes mine, if you're going to take it away from me, the field, alai hoda, then Shimon is going to come back to me. So Reuven can tell his Balchov, I am the Baldover. I am the Baldover. Why? Because if you're successful in taking the field away from Shimon, I have achrayas. I'm going to have to make it up to him. So I am a Baldover here. Or else, afilu shaloi b'achrayas nami. And even if Reuven sold the field shaloi b'achrayas, guys, and Shimon's going to lose the field, and finders keepers loses sweepers, and Shimon has nothing on Reuven. Nonetheless, Reuven can intercede with the Balchov on Shimon's behalf. You know why? The Amalei, because Reuven can tell Shimon, it's not good for me that the Havi Shimon. Reuven can tell his Balchov, it's not good to me that Shimon should have tarumas alai, that Shimon should have what complaints against me. So even Shloi B'Achrayas and Reuven, and he's not the Baldover then, right? Because there's no Achrayas over here. So Shimon can't come back to Reuven. Even so, if Shimon loses the field, I guarantee you, he won't be a happy camper. He won't be a happy camper, and he'll have kindness on Reuven. Reuven therefore can intercede on his behalf and say, listen, you have kindness upon me. Okay, very not an easy Gemara, but again, we saw the Machloikis, B'Shalom Hey Shamin, B'Shaloyin Shamin. It's only like Rabbi Akiva. We saw a Brisa that said what? One that Bainis is Iburius, and number 2 and 3, you collect from 2. Another one says 2 and 3, you collect from 1. We had 4 different ways to answer up, but it's speaking about, we had Metzias again, we went heavy into the concept of that you don't collect from Mishubad and Chayrin. If you would sell to 3 different people on 3 different days, right, then you'd always go to the last one, even if it's the best field. If you sold to them on one day, 3 different people, you just go to respective dinner. The Nizik, the Mazik to the Nizik, to Idias, Balfo Venus, Ziburis, and big Chiddush that even if you sell to one person on 3 separate days, you'd go ahead, what? On 3 separate days, you would go ahead and collect from its respective property. Why? If that one person bought on 3 separate days, our illustration was Benji bought the last one, they should go from the last one. The answer is the last one was Idias. He doesn't want to go to the last one. We had 2 attempts to go ahead. The first one, we had a big kasha on that attempt. The Ishaskas, if you're quiet, great. If not, I'll extort you and return Ziburius. Says the Gemara, that can't be the case, because if that's the case, extort the Nizik as well. And don't keep the Nizik on Idias. Let him go back to Baininus. We don't do that. So it must be that what? That Benji does not have the option, because the person that he bought from Harry is dead, and he can't return it to the kids because they won't have to pay. So therefore, it's not speaking in that case. It is speaking where the last thing he has is Idias. He doesn't want to give it to them, and he has a tremendous taina. The whole takana of ein efroim and chasim shabadim makom sheish ben choyrin is to protect Benji. In this case, he doesn't want it. It's not good for him, because if you're going to imply it, he's going to lose his Idias. He doesn't want that. Therefore, he shtel sich one, each one on their own din. Then we had a few other cases about moving, selling the fields with tainas, and we should have a very good Shabbos and happy birthday, Rabbi Stern.
I was going to say, you beat me. You need brachos from the birthday boy.
Yeah,
happy birthday.